Hey y'all, this is Pastor Steve Vellante from Bible Baptist Church in Chickasha, Oklahoma. On Wednesday, I was preaching a series of messages called Identity Crisis, Knowing Who I Am in Christ. And we taught on truth number 7, I am known by God. Therefore, I must be honest with God. And there was too many points for us to preach the message. So I preached 4 of the points. And then on Thursday for point 5 and Friday, point 6. Today's Saturday. I want to finish up. Today is April 4th, correct? April 4th, and we're continuing on in our series. And so let's just go over the 6 ways that we've studied before we study the 7th. The first way that Jehovah knows me is Jehovah searches me. Remember, we said he examines us, like you would go to a TSA, going onto an airplane, your bags will be searched. Your person will be searched by that machine when you lift up your arms, and it scans you to see if you're bringing anything in you shouldn't. And God can scan you to know what's going on in your heart. Way number 2 that God knows me is Jehovah discovers me. When I come to God and I'm trying to hide sins, he knows it, and he's able to uncover them and say, Steve, I can see this. You're not hiding it from me. Deal with it. The third way that God shows he knows us is God observes me. He watches me. Whether day or night, no matter where I am, the darkness and the light are alike to him, and he observes what I do with my time and my energy and my finances. Way number 3 that Jehovah knows me is he studies me. He discerns my thoughts. And he says that he can see my thoughts afar off. Meaning before I ever do a deed, he recognizes the thought pattern that led to the deed. And he says, Steve, I see what you're thinking, and that thinking could lead you to trouble. Way number 5 that God knows me is God actually sifts me. He winnows me. And that means he's going to take things in my life that are chaff and useless. He's going to shake me and blow off the chaff that he might reserve the wheat in my life. And he's trying to show me, Steve, there's things you shouldn't do. There's time you're wasting. There's finances you shouldn't spend. And Jehovah is sifting and separating things from me that he doesn't want. The way number 6 that Jehovah knows me is he follows me. He surrounds me. There's no place that I go that he's not already there. So even when I think I'm going astray and I'm alone, the Good Shepherd has also followed me to lead me back to my Father's house. So let's read this Psalms 139, 1 through 4, and we're going to handle the last point of this message. O Lord, thou hast searched me and known me. Thou knowest my downsitting and mine uprising. Thou understandest my thoughts afar off. Thou compassest my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word in my tongue, but thou, O Lord, thou knowest it all together. Today we're going to be looking at verse 4, a very short but interesting verse. And our way that God knows us today that we're going to be looking at is way number 7. Jehovah indwells me. Therefore he sees what's inside of my very own heart. Think about number 4 again, verse 4, as we read it, that God is actually indwelling me. For there is not a word in my tongue, O Lord, but lo, O Lord, thou knowest it altogether. I never think of there being any words in my tongue. I think that my brain uses my tongue to say words. And this creative way of saying this is literally letting me know that God is inside my heart and understands what's going on inside my heart. And it's from the depths of my heart that my tongue is speaking. And so my tongue is getting the words that it would speak from my heart. And those words are actually stored up in my heart, but released through my tongue. And because God is inside me, he sees these things. So our words reveal to the world what is in our hearts. And if God is already indwelling me, he sees what's in my heart before I say it. So before I utter a word, God already knew I was going to say it. Not just that he has foreknowledge of all things, and he does, past, present, and future are alike to him, but he's even in my heart seeing the thought process that produce those words, whether good or bad, that I've used. And Jesus was teaching in Matthew chapter 12, verse 35. Listen to what he said. Jesus said, a good man out of the good treasures of his heart bringeth forth good things. An evil man out of the evil treasures bringeth forth evil things. In the verse before and after, we're talking about the tongue. And so a good man has good words coming up out of his good heart, and an evil man has evil words. So you and I cannot hide the deepest corner of our heart from the gaze of God. He knows you from the inside out. He knows your thoughts. He knows what's in your heart, and he knows the words in your tongue before you speak them. And so there's no sense playing hide and go and seek with God. There's no sense putting a mask on with God and saying, God, I'm going to hide who I am from you. I'm going to pray and try to deceive you. God, I'm going to pray and tell you I love you, but there's no fruit or facts in my life. Because when God looks into my heart, he sees I'm selfish and I have ambitions that have nothing to do with him. And so knowing that I have a God who sifts me, he sees in my heart, he knows the words in my tongue, he knows the thoughts that I think, he's examining me and uncovering and observing, and he's studying me, sifting me, and he's following me, and he indwells me. How well does God know you? He knows you better than you know yourself. You might think, I won't fall into that sin, but God will warn you, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. If we sow seeds to the flesh, we will reap a tornado. But if we will sow seeds to the Spirit, we will reap life everlasting. Ask yourself, if your heart is filled with love towards God, your life will be filled with that kind of fruit. But if you're only thinking about earthly prosperity, if you're thinking only about earthly success, if you're only thinking about what you drive and where you live and how you dress and what vacations you've been able to afford, you are ignoring a huge part of your life where God says, am I important to you? Do you love the letter that I gave you, my word? Do you read it? Do you study it? Do you apply it? Do you want to train and equip your children to live successfully on earth, or do you want them to just be successful, physically successful? God knows. God knows if you pray and you give your children to him and say, God, use my children for your glory. And he knows if you're withholding your children from him saying, no, these are my children. I don't want them to travel. I don't want them to do anything. I want them to be here for me because they're mine. Children are a gift from God. So parents, God is monitoring our hearts to see if we think we own our children or they're really gifts from him, that we're supposed to prepare our children to serve a great God. I pray that this study on truth number 7, I'm known by God, therefore I must be honest with God, has been a blessing to you, because I believe many Christians are playing games with God, and God doesn't play the I need to get to know you game. He knows us all together, and you can't pull the wool over his eyes. We pulled the wool over our mom's eyes and our dad's eyes. We were able to deceive them because they are humans. But God has the advantage because he can examine us, uncover our sin. He observes all that we do. He studies you, and he can sift you, and he follows you, and he also indwells you. And because he indwells your heart, he sees what's in there, and he knows if there's good things in your heart, good things will come out of your mouth. But if there's evil in your heart, selfishness in your heart, those are the very words that will flow from your mouth, and that will let the world know what's in your heart. But he knew it before you ever said the word. Let's be very careful as we walk before our God, not to try to hide who we are, but to say, Lord, create in me a new heart that's passionate for you. Have a great day, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow as we gather together online for Palm Sunday, looking at the triumphal entry of Jesus into the city of Jerusalem. God bless you. Bye.